episode 2 of Deep Shit. I am EQ. Just wanted to kind of wish everybody happy Easter. It's going to be a fun episode. I think the title for this, I was going to use humility. Humility is one of those things that I think that we sometimes overlook as to what it means and that kind of thing. I guess if I have to broadly define humility as to what it is, what do we want out of it, and that kind of thing, to me it's something about giving in to the idea of what is your life. And I was watching a movie earlier today, and they kind of speak on this term of life not being your own. And I think that's something that we should understand is important as we look at a lot of these things. Because when we look at life being just that, I think we have to understand that um, there's something that you're always giving back, so that maybe the organism, and if we think of the organism kind of every time it evolves to something new, from there you have like a node of sorts to basically stem down, and then that's where everything kind of drains down until the next node is formed. And I guess we can always argue that there's going to be like some micro nodes along the subspecies and that kind of thing. But just kind of when we look at all that, it's going to be one of those things. So as I go into this episode, one of the things I'm going to probably touch on is I am working on display. I decided to do a little bit of camera, uh, on-screen camera with my presence, that kind of thing. Got a little mini LED light that kind of is helping shade in or color in the face, so that here right now there's not a whole lot of light. I have a little lamp behind this. My laptop, trying to run and see how much my laptop can take, and just working with OBS a little more here and there. Um, Hopefully everybody likes the thumbnails and the logo. I mean, so that's kind of where I'm going off on that. Kind of wanted to be a little cute with it, as well as just kind of see what I could do. And yeah, so that's kind of what it is. So back to humility. Just kind of understanding that um, maybe that life is a little bit of a blessing. And when I use that word, I don't mean to, kind of like the previous episode I kind of touched upon, like, I don't really think, let me say like that, because, like when we're talking about humility in general, I think one of the things that we have to understand is, even if I was to argue that I don't exist in the idea of religion, until that I know that it exists, it or does not exist in some kind of idea that, so if religion is a thing, so outside of just the study of religion, but there is some kind of force that comes from that doctrine that was written, I have to believe that at some kind of crossroads that I'm a part of it whether I like it or not. So I guess with all that being said, it just is, it just is. So now that we see that and we can claim some kind of humility, and I'm going to get to that. I'm sorry. I'm a ranter. So there's that. But when we look at all of this, I think we can understand that it's going to be something that you have to accept and just kind of gain as much as you can with what you have. And I know everybody has different situations and that kind of thing, and it's not easy to say that there's a one size fits all. But I think there's an appreciation that you can always come to on your own, and nobody can ever have your existence. So that's something that I always try to kind of gauge in on a lot of this stuff. I'm trying to debate on whether I think the camera is horrid or not. I apologize. Um, I also think I want to kind of remain a little to the left so that shit is a little more prevalent in this fine discussion of humility. So there is that. But with all that being said, no, it is something that you have to understand and work through to put yourself in a place of acceptance of all kinds, and then just kind of do the best with what you've got. Um, it really takes a lot on us to not be overwhelmed with all the stimuli that approaches us on every moment of every day. And, like just as anybody, I tend to tune out some things that may be a little more difficult and that kind of thing. Um, and yes. So, I mean, sorry, I do that sometimes. I just kind of like, I realize I finish a thought and then I just kind of come to some kind of odd close, like end period. Like if you ever hear me speak, a lot of what I will do is be like, blah 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 blah, as if I'm going to, excuse me, carry on, and then I'll just do it because I know whatever person that's speaking with me is going to expect me to continue from that point, and I just have to go like, okay, the end. So there is that. So yeah, but as you get through this kind of discussion, it's kind of a different way of seeing things. Um, I do believe that a part of us kind of goes through life with a type of entitlement. And I know a lot of times we hear that kind of language and we just kind of get put off because to tell anybody to their face, you're entitled, it's rude, and all that kind of stuff. And when we look at what's going on with all that, I mean, are you not entitled to some degree anyways? I mean, like it, not even through the thought process, but you're entitled to live. You made it as much as you can. Um, after that, like we're lucky to have society. I kind of going back to some of the stuff, please, and let me say this. I probably will reference to past videos, so if you do keep up with this series, if nothing more, but for the catchy title of the series, Deep Shit, like I will refer to things in the past. So just kind of keep up with that if at all this is interesting. If not, try to leave a comment. I'll definitely will right now because we're still at the bottom. But no, this is just something I wanted to try out, have fun with, and just kind of like see what can happen. Hopefully the audio sounds okay. I am using a different microphone or a microphone, an actual microphone instead of the laptop microphone. And also, I guess I kind of wanted to see how far we could get with this. Like I was talking to a buddy earlier today, and one of the things that we went over was, just don't go out and try to acquire everything all at once. Know what you need, like, because it's easy to say, I need the best everything, because ideally, even if you were in a car, if it wasn't any added expense or anything, would you just not get like the best car you could? I mean, like, so now that we see that, now we add in costs and things like that, and whether we do or don't need to add extra expenditures to my already compromised budget. But that's something else altogether. So, anyways, yeah, humility, and where are most of us with humility and that kind of thing, and what does humility, um, what will it give us and that kind of thing? I don't know. To me, it's always been a perception. One of the things my mother used to say to me when I was younger was, it could always be worse. And me being the little SOB that I am, I always tried to, be more quick witted with the idea like, okay, my mom says something is absolute. Because if you can say something always is, then we can understand that there is nothing that can combat that. Excuse me, that kind of thing. So now that we see that, now we have to understand, okay, well, what does that mean to us and why? Well, I just wanted to see if there was an epitomic. Um, I actually don't know the pronunciation of the adjective. Epitomic, epitomic, of that. Can we hold on 1 second? All right, sorry about that. So the epitome of how far can we go as to where, what is the worst thing? Like, what is the worst experience ever? And I think a lot of people would kind of go to like the worst crimes and that kind of thing. You know, I actually came to a conclusion on this, and it's inconclusive. So I came to my personal conclusion as to why I would think so, and that kind of thing. And that's just never having the existence, to never know anything, to not exist, whatever that means, and that kind of thing. And like when you see that, then whether you go to certain jobs or that kind of thing, um, you just don't know. You take that time and you weigh it against everything else, and you just say, I'm gonna change. And this is why I would also argue into, or I'll say this. This is one of the things that has made me want to be a little more vigilant in handling finances and that kind of thing, because you realize when you've got too many odds against you, and when it comes to being able to balance out what you have to put up with in life, the more factors you have against you, they ultimately can be I don't know that word, but it would be incremental in some kind. I don't want to say incremental, but either way, it would add up to a value that would basically put you in a likelihood to be stuck, so to speak. So anything that holds you in a position, and I'm sure most of you understand that. It's kind of one of those things that you say it, maybe you have to talk through that whole, just talk through the whole thing, in order to be okay with it working as such. Like, so I'm not going to acquire this or that because this might in the future hinder me from taking a next step and that kind of thing. So there's that. But even still, you know, just kind of dancing around the theme of this episode, humility. Um, I would say that that's something that we have to always keep reminding ourselves. The grass is greener on the other side. I was going to cut it short, and I was like, well, if anybody sees this, like, that may not know that expression, there you go. So yeah, with all the ideas of humility and that kind of thing, I think it just equates to a better time in general. Like, you don't have so much pressure. Like, even to the thing that, I was talking about, like waking up and expectations and that kind of thing. And this kind of goes back to my beliefs on what I think most people are most concerned with. So when you wake up in the morning, there's a little rant, but I'm gonna try to bring it full circle. What's the first thing you start thinking about? Could be food, could be coffee, could be smoke, whatever. Um, could be so many things that you wake up that you just worry about. And a lot of us, I would argue, we probably just have a set routine. You know you're going to go to work, maybe. Um, and if you get there, how does the morning play out? What about this gauges whether or not your day is good or bad? And I think sometimes we go in there with this bad expectation, like maybe the experience is so bad already, and we're just going to go through it. And as long as nothing has kind of interfered with what we've got going already, it'll be okay. But when we kind of get through, when something gives us a hiccup or anything like that, and we kind of run through our day just as it has to be at least this okay. And if anything interferes with that, I'm not going to be okay. And, you know, to that, I am definitely one of those people. So at least the bias comes from my source of, like, I understand that. So for those of you that don't have some weird affliction to where it's got to be your way or that kind of thing, you know, maybe this one ain't for you. But for the rest of us, you just got to think it through, take it a step, and even understand that the outlet that didn't pan out for what you had planned for, that's going to be something that you get to take on yourself as a new perception. Now, with that being said, it's not easy sometimes, all right? Like, and sometimes it's just like so crappy or even shitty. Um, we look through this and we gotta adopt a new way of taking it. Now, like in some ways, maybe it's people. Because now to that, I've always just kind of had this theory that people is the hardest part about the job. I'll shovel shit, but a person can make a job 1,000 times worse. Like, bullies, whatever, and kind of going through that. And that's just going to have to be something that you've got to establish right away. Can I be okay with this? And I know that it's not always that transparent as far as who or you're going to meet or what will become of certain careers and that kind of thing. And it doesn't just have to be careers, but a lot of times, fortunately, unfortunately, however you look at it, your job is not your job is not only a small portion of your life. Your job is like in most people's lives, and especially to a lot of people that I've worked with in the past that did like factory work and stuff like that, very demanding schedules. 6, 7 days a week, sometimes 80 hours. Um, you know, not very much weekly notices, so you don't even know like a full week ahead of time. You get like maybe the Thursday before the following Sunday. I can't even remember when I worked at that one factory, but period. Or the point is sometimes it's not that easy, and then you get stuck in that kind of situation, and it's just this kind of it's this kind of approach to things, humility, that allows us to kind of bring this in and allows us to kind of work with things that we might not otherwise work through. And, I think the point of a lot of this is just to, excuse me, to kind of give you an easier passage through everything. Because as you go through life, you don't get to pick how the sea is crashing that day. So you're on a voyage, whatever. But you get to refocus your mind and how you deal with it. And that's always just something that I need to remind myself. And if you ever need to as well, please do so. And if you guys got any stories where maybe just changing your perception, and if anybody knows me here, which probably most of y'all now still do, if you ever see me get pissed off, Joe's got a little bit of anger problem sometimes. So, just like little bits that you got to chip at, and just understand that it's good if you have things to work on. Because if you don't have anything to work on, then uh, maybe that's it. Kind of like in Casper. Like even as a person, like if you've ever seen the I don't know exactly who carried this theme first, but the first time I had ever seen it was from a novel called The Grapes of Wrath. A friend of mine in high school had told me it was a good book to read. I checked it out, and it was just crazy. I won't give any stories, and the kind of neat thing is like collectively the movie is way different than the book. The book is just like they kind of jump to the next scene as if like, but it in some ways you feel like it's not even connecting itself. I mean, like it, but also I would argue the book is more about the city, whereas the movie was about, I can't even think of the main guy's name, but I think it was more about him and his like little his buddies that would kind of help him out. But yeah, no, the story, there was this one guy. So yeah, like if I can't even remember the main character, I'm not gonna remember one of the other characters. He worked on a boat for his whole life, and he kind of just put off. I think they did this in the Karate Kid also with Mr. Miyagi. Um, he had done this thing where he never finished these car. He kept repainting them, and then like the foreshadow is like, well, that was all they had, at least in their mind. Like, but the idea like here is like, if you bring yourself down, uh, not in a depressed state, but just in a less heightened, excuse me, um, state where maybe you're not as anxious or angry or upset, that kind of thing. Ooh, excuse me. Um, you're gonna see like this idea of everything feels a little better, and that's just my perception on it. Like I can't tell everybody to do this, and I am no in no way a therapist, but when we look at these kinds of things, I think that we have to just kind of like eh, try it, like try it, and I would never promise results on like first go round, but it's like anything. I think it takes practice and that kind of thing. But anyways, I'm not trying to be too much of a preacher. It's supposed to be deep shit, and like the concept is really kind of a half appreciation, but half like where can it take you, your own perception, and this is a core concept of humility. Like can I tell myself I'm a piece of shit, but not offend myself. Like it's kind of like playing off of the idea that people talk about if you say something negatively to yourself too much, you start to internalize it, and that's kind of what you work with as far as like your faculties about how the I get a little choked up sometimes. As far as being able to go forward and not be depressed. Can I bring the ego down a little bit? Whether that, and when I say the ego, it doesn't have to be like I'm full of myself, like I believe I'm the best. But can I come down, whether it be through any heightened state, and kind of take a new perception of anything? And that really can work for so many things. And I would argue that's a form of humility, like whether it is or not. Like so, if you had to physically fight somebody, I'm not arguing for violence. I don't agree with it. It doesn't matter if it's male or female. I think you could be the most talented athlete in fighting, but one wrong move and you fell, and it could be just the biggest joke. You trip and get knocked out, and then like air beats you. Like, who cares? Like air beats you. Like what are you now? So just that kind of stuff. But as you kind of look into a lot of the humility, it's just I don't know. It's a new way to perceive, a way to change your perception. I, I don't know if I could say it like that, but you have to take in the. So you're going in there with the idea that I'm going to scale down whatever, like anxiety, or it's kind of like being excited for something, and you go through it all and it doesn't pan out. Well, you kind of bring down the excitement, and now you're having to adjust to that new perception. So that's kind of what you would be working in with. But yeah, so I'm trying not to be too southern. Like I know it can't be helped, but sometimes like, well, so, and I'm just like, oh God. But either way, um, yeah, but that's just like the humility of all things. It really is a weight that can lift you up as well as bring you down. And once you kind of work with that and those kinds of things, uh, I think it's an interesting experience, and it really will change your life. And to kind of gauge some of that stuff, I really do believe in this. There's something that plays into the stimulus of your brain being energized, or at least your consciousness being energized in a positive manner that somehow prolongs life and that kind of thing. I don't know the specifics of the sciences that are related to it, but if you've known people that have maybe passed away after retirement and that kind of thing, you probably can relate to that, and that's humbling there. So like double meaning on that same thing. And you really have to take that in, because I don't know. It just, where do you go with that? Like, like at what point can you ultimately perceive everything around you? And this kind of goes into things that I've wanted to see at some point. Because now that we can see that there possibly is some connectivity between um, I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words. A heightened emotional state ultimately prolonging your life. Now we can say that, okay, so there may be something to this concept of the mental focus being energized and somebody surviving a little more. All right, so now that we can understand that that may play into blood rate, blood pressure rate, heart rate, all that kind of stuff. And then we can connect this to like abstracts like telekinesis and that kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure we're so close to telekinesis, it's not even funny. Um, I don't know how you do it without, like, so in my concept of what would be necessary for telekinesis is the idea that air is heated up enough around a stimuli to move it. Now, what we're saying essentially is somehow we're kind of artificially creating air from maybe like two points that are not connected, because that's really the only thing that I would argue that now that we may get a new form of that if we haven't. So sometimes, please, if there's anything like this already that's more than just heat being applied to a direct area, ultimately resulting, couldn't think of the word, in like just like almost like a fan. Outside of that, and I don't know how we would do it. Maybe there is something with light. I know that years back we had made some headway on teleportation. Um, I think they had successfully uh, transmitted a beam of light or a photon. Let me say it like that. To another place where the two were disconnected. Now, I, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I actually have more faith in telekinesis than I do teleportation. Although, when I was younger, that was probably the super power that I wanted more than anything, to be able to just blink and then be there and just instantly. So um you know lots of things. I feel like I've already left humility a little bit, but hold on. Okay, sorry about that. So kind of going back to the idea of perception could ultimately just be or not be, but the idea of the perception being stimulated, ultimately kind of boiling into this concept of somebody being able to energize themselves to prolong life. And then we kind of turn this concept into something where instead of it just causing movement throughout your own neurons and stuff like that, somehow we can designate like a remote signal or to pick up like an attenuation or something like that from your own uh, nerve cells or something like that. And maybe there's a way to channel that into a directed force, which kind of ultimately gives it some kind of AC current or something that can have a battery to be stimulated off thereof. Um, don't know. I don't want to say that like I'm the first person to say that. If it's even feasible, I could just be, on some half-assed crackpot, whatever couldn't even work to begin with. I'm just thinking it through, like the little bits of the scientific world that I even understand. So, yes, lots of stuff when you kind of and I love the double play on humility there. So like if you just think about it as like that's amazing. So that's humbling to take in the idea that so much can come from so little, and maybe it's just an argument between a direct current of the atom versus an attenuated current from the atom. So are we is that what it all is anyways? Where do we go from there? How do we work from that? Don't know. And just the idea of humility being not just that, but also humility being something to bring yourself down to all perceptions and like even everything. So it's really just I guess I would argue that it's just really a relative appreciation or an appreciation for relativity of all kinds. And when you kind of wrap that all into this, it really is a beautiful thing. So I guess I, instead of ranting on, I think I'm going to end it here for our second episode. Hopefully, it's been enjoyable. I don't know. I have an idea for an opening theme. I don't know if I'm going to use it on this one or just try to construct it for episode 3. I'm not sure what episode 3 will entail. Just let me know. Comments. Give me a like, somebody, please. I think I got one on the previous video, or one of the other ones where I'm just kind of playing with the computer, that kind of thing. And yeah, just let me know what I could do better. What would y'all like to see? Do you hate the logos? Is the blotchiness too much? Am I clear enough? Am I clear enough through other mediums? Maybe you listen in the car, that kind of thing. Just let me know. Yeah. So, well, everybody, happy Easter. I hope you all have a safe, happy holiday if you do celebrate. If not, still have a wonderful weekend. And this is EQ, and y'all have a wonderful night. And this ends another broadcast of Deep Shit.